I'm Patrick Watson, I'm an astrologer, and you're watching Big Fat Astrovlog, and today I'm going to be delivering a monthly horoscope for all Cancer risings for the month of August 2018. And I'm not talking about Cancer suns, I'm talking about Cancer risings. So this horoscope only applies to you if the tropical sign of Cancer was rising on the eastern horizon at the time and place of your birth. So if you're unsure about what rising sign you have, get your birth date, birth time, very important, and birthplace, and go to www.astro.com, put it in your chart details page, and you should be able to find out what rising sign you have. So this is for Cancer rising. So the reason I'm able to tell kind of generally what will happen for Cancer risings is because of whole sign houses. The relationship of the signs to the ascending sign of Cancer tells us what house topics they'll, be about. So I have, in this wheel, I have all of the 12 house topics, and in the second wheel, I have all of the planets that the location of the planets for the month of August. And I also have a little key here so you can tell which glyphs are for which planet and what they're kind of generally about. And then on the outer wheel, I have the Zodiac signs with the text of the words, because I know the glyphs can be difficult if you're unfamiliar with them. So I'm going to take you through basically the 5 things I found about August 2018 that I thought were kind of interesting. So let's take a look at the first major thing. Was on August 11th. We get a solar eclipse on August 11th at 18 Leo. See here, there's the sun, there's the moon. We can see there are 18 Leo, and we know that it's happening in our second house. So this solar eclipse concerns our money, our stuff, and things we take for granted. So that could be a lot of things. That could be generally solar eclipses are the beginnings of narratives. They can also be the ends in some sense, but they typically are the beginnings of narratives. So it'll begin about a 12-month narrative that concerns money and your stuff, things you take for granted, your material values, your attitude towards things. So, it's difficult to say exactly what this will be about because, depending on any planets you have in Leo or any planets that closely aspect 18 Leo, I don't know exactly how it's going to impact your chart individually, but what I can say generally is that it is linked up with this Mercury Retrograde since it's happening so close to it, and it's also going to be relevant for whatever Jupiter's doing in your 5th, since that is also that's in a square to the eclipse. So we know that kind of figures in as well. Quick side note about Mercury Retrograde. Mercury Retrogrades are commonly associated with miscommunications, technology going haywire, schedule mishaps, do-overs, having to do things over and over and over and over again, missed plans, messed up plans, things like that. So with Mercury going retrograde in the second, since it's in Leo and it's in your second house, we know that what Mercury is going to be kind of upsetting and disturbing and making sort of uncertain is the status of money and like your stuff. So this probably is going to be a more stereotypical Mercury retrograde where you're losing a lot of things that you need. Like I would keep your keys just like glued to you, your phone, keys, money, that's the kind of stuff that Mercury likes to kind of dick around with. And I'd especially imagine that to be the case when Mercury is going retrograde in your second house, the house of like material possessions. However, the other thing that Mercury does is oftentimes Mercury presents a kind of potential or a possibility or a question that you have to consider that you're kind of vacillating on. You have to kind of go back and forth on. Mercury is uncertainty, so and ambiguity. So while you're going back and forth about some issue related to money or things, maybe like a big purchase or something, especially since it's square Jupiter in the 5th, or maybe some sort of investment, big expenditure. At the same time that's happening, this eclipse is happening in your second. So it kind of shows that despite your internal debate about whatever this is about, the eclipse is showing that things are kind of just going to barrel forward anyway with second house issues. So hopefully this doesn't impact you too negatively. I mean, Jupiter in the fifth, yeah, that's probably like a bit big expenditures. So that could have an impact on your money, or it could be like, taking out a new line of credit or something, or using a lot of credit. So that's the sort of things I'd expect with those planetary dynamics. Now I'm going to go to, let's see what's happening now with Venus. So on August 1st, so the very beginning of the month, Venus is in your third house. So for the very first few days of the month, Venus will still be in Virgo as it has been for most of July. And Venus sweetens. So Venus makes things friendly. Venus can make things romantic. So Venus going through your third can be like pleasant social interactions with people about your neighborhood, your neighbors, or people who are like family, friends of the family, siblings, cousins, that kind of thing. Maybe you just had like a really, decent time with those kinds of figures in, the greater part of last month. However, that changes when we get to August 7th. Venus ingresses into Libra. And of course, this is now in your fourth house when Venus goes into Libra. So this shows that what was previously good relationships and good relations with like people who are like family is showing that Venus is coming to the part of your chart associated with your actual family, especially your parents. So this could take on a few different manifestations. This could be, like having a nice reconnection with your parents. But it could also be like a nice time to like kind of beautify your intimate surroundings, to redecorate, that kind of thing. It's, Venus beautifies and makes nice. So, it could be a, good meal with your parents or something and having a better connection with them in that time. But it could also just be, making your own private spaces, more beautiful and amenable and amiable, or I don't know what I'm trying to say. Nice for people to come and see, I guess, having social interactions within the home. So that's what Venus will be kind of indicating for most of that month. Now let's go to Mars, because Mars is doing some pretty dramatic things in the month of August. At the very beginning of the month, Mars is retrograde in Aquarius, where it has been for quite a while. Now, it's been happening in your eighth, which is that which you kind of ignore or that things you can't know. So that it's unknowns, taboos. It can also, have an association with death, obviously, because you can't see past death. It also has an association with the money of others, especially in terms of like insurance claims, taxes, loans, kind of shadowy financial organizations. That's that's what the eighth is kind of about. So it's difficult for me to think of a really concrete example of Mars in the eighth in this particular context, but I think that with Mars going retrograde through your eighth house over the past few months, this is where like your battle has been. Like it's been with, I don't know, an insurance company, or it's been with a bank, or it's or I mean, it's also possible that like death has affected your life in some way. I mean, it doesn't have to be your own death or the death of someone particularly close to you, but the topic of death does sometimes surface in the eighth house in ways. And I don't want to, I don't know, like scare someone into thinking like, I'm gonna die. Like, no, you're not gonna die ever. So the interesting thing about that is that on August 13th, Mars goes retrograde into the previous sign, actually crosses a sign boundary. So there'll be a kind of tonal shift with Mars after August 13th when Mars is in your seventh house. Now, Mars in the seventh house, a sort of conventional interpretation of Mars in the seventh is, conflicts with one's partner. And it doesn't just have to be your marriage partner or your boyfriend or girlfriend. It could also just be conflicts with the people who you're partnered with, people who you have to deal with whether you want to or not. It can also be exes as well. So that can be business partners. That can be even roommates in some ways like fit the definition, just because you have to kind of like, I don't know, survive together. It's the people who you can't really do without. You have to kind of contend with them and balance with them. And usually you experience that with a partner, like a romantic partner, but it can happen in other contexts. In any case, Mars going into that part of your chart, that's what that indicates for the month or so that Mars is in Capricorn. Now, Mars finally stations direct on August 28th. So that's the point at which these conflicts that Mars has been coincident with will finally go any further. You'll finally start moving on out and away from these battles, right? But at least for a brief while, Mars will be taking on kind of a more of an edge towards your like relationships. So, the last thing that I would like to talk about for August is just a couple of days before that Mars direct station, there is a full moon at 3 degrees of Pisces. And so this is happening in your 9th house. So this should produce a 2-week kind of focus or backdrop of the topics of travel and religion or spirituality, college, politics, philosophy, culture, that kind of thing. So I don't know, maybe this is like a time of the year that you just really get like well read up on kind of what's going on, and you sort of feel more civically engaged, or you want to go somewhere and find something out, explore, expand your vistas or whatever. But you could also just go back in the ephemeris to previous years and look back either in late August or sometime in September, whenever the sun is in Virgo and the moon was in Pisces. You'll kind of see what you've been up to when there's been full moons in Pisces. They happen every year. So that's all I have to say about August 2018. If you enjoyed this horoscope, give it a like, give it a share, give it a nice comment. I always appreciate those. And if you want me to keep going, I'm taking support on Patreon, so definitely give my Patreon a click there. And even if you just leave $1, like, that's amazing. That helps me so much, to continue making content. And if you want to see what I'd have to say about your chart specifically, I do offer services and readings, so just go to www.bigfatastro.com and check out my services. And if you would like to do that on a budget, I also offer a Big Fat Astro Natal Horoscope Report. I made custom interpretations of planets in every sign, house, and aspect. So you just put in your birth details, and it gives you back a report of everything I've written about your chart. So that's only $20. Give it a shot. It's pretty good. So, I hope you have a good August 2018. Let me know how it goes, and I'll see you later next time. Bye.